World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the NTEseries Endurance Series presented by Shannon's. The first round at Phillip Island certainly went off in more ways than one. We really enjoyed bringing you that. And now we go to another legendary Australian circuit, Sandown International Motor Raceway in Victoria. We are partway through this 2.5-hour race, and we're bringing you the final 60 minutes live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And to bring you through it is myself, Reese Gardner, with Dan Yeaman with me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy working away behind the scenes and bringing you live pictures. This is going to be a fun one, Dan, and there's already been a couple of twists in the tail. Justin McLean currently leads the race from Blake Warboys, and McLean making a bit of a strategy call. He decided to pit and short fuel, potentially to get an undercut on his rivals, so that might mix things up here in the final hour.
I think it certainly will. Thank you for the introduction there, Reese, and thank you to those who are joining us here for the action this evening. And well, ourselves a busy evening of commentary to get through, and starting it off here, a reminder of the format for this evening and for this series here in the NTEseries Endurance Championship. 4-lap lone qualifying was held now almost starting nearly 2 hours ago and change, and an hour and a half into a 2.5-hour race. One guaranteed safety car, which has not yet been called, so we await to see roughly when that might happen in this stage of the race, and a fixed setup in this series, which meant all drivers started on 60 litres of fuel out of the 111 they're able to put into the car at any of the pit stops, should they choose to do so here, Reese.
Indeed, and plenty of action besides. There are currently 4 cars on the lead lap at the moment. The race is not over by any means. These are the championship standings after the first round. Blake Warboys with a dominant run at Phillip Island, and finishing ahead of Crosby and McLean. We've got the top 10 there. It's using the F1 style points system here, so P1 gets 25 points for a race win. And Justin McLean there in third. He had to put on a bit of a recovery drive at Phillip Island, so considering what he's decided to do, short foot fill the car, try and get an undercut on Warboys, he'll be trying to claw back some of that points gap.
Yeah, you hope that's what we'll get a chance to see in this final part of the race. But Warboys has been the car to beat on speed once again. No major surprises there. So this strategy call from McLean is going to be interesting to watch, and hopefully it does pan out for him, and it will be effective as we get into that closing stage of the race. We turn our attention to the live pictures coming from the session now. Indeed, just tick past the 1 hour remaining mark in this race. Focusing on here with Chris Nankerville on this number 20 Holden ZB Commodore machine. Unfortunately for Chris, currently running back in P9, and thanks to the differing strategies that have been seen so far in this race, is currently 2 laps down on your race leader, McLean. There's that off-sequence stopping pattern that we've seen from Justin so earlier on today. Well, for those of us who have been in the comms box, who have been observing this race up until this point, just to get an idea of how things are playing out. And it does mean that things look a little spaced out in some regards, but we do have this little scrap here for third race.
We do. This is the closest fight on track at the moment. Only half a second between Dean Powell and Michael Stewart in the 2 Mustangs. They're starting to come up on some lap traffic here. Dylan Seitz, who is running in P7, a lap down. Seitz, though, did start 11th, so it's been a race of positions gained for him for the time being. And he'll be hoping that the safety car will allow him to at least try and get one of those laps back. But we keep our eyes peeled here on Powell and Stewart. See how they go here coming into the final couple of corners at Sandown. A very difficult sequence, this one. You've got to be careful not to get on the throttle too hard between the right-hander and the left hand. There's some news from race control. The safety car that we expected has just been called with about 58 minutes to go. So this will certainly spice things up. Out comes the Shannon's safety car, the Porsche. And we'll see how things go for the drivers here on out. We've got a full wall of Zoom feeds here. Dean Powell in your top left. We've got Nankiville and John Bradshaw joining him on that top row. Sebastian Murray-Westberg in race control. He's on the comms at the moment, just giving everyone instructions. And then we've got the likes of Nathan Brown, Blake Warboys, and Brad Minshall in there as well.
The middle one is Michael Stewart in the 919. I can tell you, despite the fact that he's that Zoom name there, Senior Party's phone didn't quite line up. But we'll see here now as drivers off the jacks with their service complete, and McLean actually going to just get out in front of Warboys here. So 6 seconds difference in the stop there. No driver needing to take full fuel and tyres from that one there, but looks like McLean just able to get the job done there, keep the track position. But we will have the field bunched up under the safety car, of course, and that will enable Blake Warboys to have a chance to go straight onto the bumper, the 662, when we go green, and put the pressure on without having to close down a gap on track first.
Indeed, we're getting instructions for waiver rounds, just waiting for the lap cars to be let by the safety car, and looks like we have compressed the front of the field here. It was a 21-second stop for Justin McLean, 14.6 seconds for Blake Warboys, and of course McLean having to fill his car up a little bit more there because as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, he short-filled on his last pit stop to undercut Warboys, and the plan has worked. The safety car has been very well timed for him and just managed to get out ahead of the number 63, who is the driver to beat in this championship so far. Now you see them jerk over to the right-hand side of the track. There's some instructions being given by Seb Murray-Westberg for the drivers behind the safety car to stay to the right and allow these drivers by as they unlap themselves. So that's all being done nice and orderly. It's a small field here for the NTE series, but small fields don't necessarily mean bad racing. In fact, the racing has been quite good, as there's another driver coming into the pits. It looks like that is Dean Powell making a move for the lane, and he didn't pit when the safety car came out. Michael Stewart will pass him there for third place now.
He will, yeah. So Powell, having run a little bit longer, actually I should say 12 laps on that previous stint there. So had run a very long 43 lap stint prior to that, but he's going to have that extra lap of fuel in the car, which might be important here because we're pretty certain we're not quite in range of these cars making it home here. He's a timed certain race with the clock there in the top left of screen on the timing tower. That is what we'll be driving to today, not a lap number, which means that drivers are going to have to be very careful about making sure they know the range on these cars here at Sandown and whether they can stretch it perhaps a little fraction as the wave rounds are continuing elsewhere on the circuit. But we're looking in here at the number 3 of John Bradshaw as he brings it round turns 11 and 12. And you will see him stay out on the circuit for the time being and stay on that lap of the race here and rejoin the queue. We're now working our way up towards turn 6.
The only driver yet to pit under this safety car period is Dylan Seitz, who has managed to elevate himself to 6th as a result of that. But I think that he'll have to pit sooner rather than later. I'd expect him in at the end of this lap potentially. So we'll see how that goes for him. But the safety car period has managed to work out well for drivers down to John Bradshaw. They are now all on the lead lap again, and Bradshaw will be coming up on these guys in just a few seconds, and they will form into a line. Once the field is bunched up, the safety car will jump back in and we can get back to racing. And the question on my mind is, what will Justin McLean do versus Blake Warboys? This track is one with plenty of braking zones. We can get a quick look at the track map while we're under this safety car. You'll notice that Sandown has some long straights followed by heavy braking zones and tight corners, and that basically means that it's a track that is quite easy to pass on. We view Australia then and zoom on into Victoria. Sandown Park, obviously a venue that is known just as much for horse racing as it is for car racing, and Sandown very close to plenty of other racetracks as well, a very heavily populated area of the country for motor racing venues. But moving on down, we see the horse racing track, and round the outside of it is Sandown International Motor Raceway. And there we are, Dan. You can see just how tight some of these corners are, and how easy it is in theory to make a pass around here.
Yeah, it sure is a track that likes to encourage good overtaking options. What with turn 1 and the run down after the run down the front straightaway, and then the run up the back stretch to turn 6. It is a little bit more dicey. You really have to make sure you commit to getting a move done there on the backstretch. Otherwise, stay in behind on the way to turn 6 and then send it up the inside at turn number 9 at Dandenong Road. Otherwise, maybe fire it in at turn 11 and 12 if you get a good run compared to the driver ahead. So you do have some options here, but the straightaway runs here obviously very crucial. You make sure you're maximizing your exits off of turns 4 and 12 to make sure you are giving yourself the best position to attack or defend around this circuit. Safety car will be in at the end of this lap. We've just been advised by race control. So going to have about 50.5 minutes or thereabouts, I'd say, on the clock once we get back to racing, as we watch the field continue to cycle up the back stretch. And indeed, Dylan Seitz has stayed out under this safety car period here, Reece. So now, looking at his numbers, he's currently done 22 laps to this current stint. He should be good on fuel to make sure he's definitely in a window to make it home before he makes his final stop. The question is whether these drivers here, having taken a stop under the safety car, will need to come in and splash and dash. We suspect they will need to do that. It's a question, though, if anyone's been able to save just a little enough here to maybe make it a possibility as we go on board here with Dean Power and the 999, and also with the camera feed from Dean here today, waiting on the instruction before we go back to green.
Indeed, it's all about traction here, and so Justin McLean is going to have to defend hard from Blake Warboys and make sure that he gets the power down nicely. Safety car has pulled away, and we negotiate the last couple of corners. Justin McLean decides to go early as the green flag waves, and that is a brilliant exit from the last turn for Justin McLean, who leads across the line as we go racing once more in the NTE series. So down into turn 1 we go, and it's a reasonable gap to Warboys of about 4/10. It is close still for 4th and 5th. That's a big lock up there from both Dean Powell and Nathan Brown, who are fighting over 4th place. Got to be careful here on the cold tyres. They wouldn't have had much opportunity to heat them up under the safety car.
Yeah, it's true, but at the same time, this car is well renowned for being at its best. And you can keep these tyres nice and cold. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation, because most of these drivers will be familiar with that fact. They're on board with the 86, Nathan Brown, currently running in 5th place in behind Dean Powell as they work their way up to turn 6 here. And you can see trying to get the cars in. Brown a little wide, though. Going to get over the curb of 7 there. Able to pull it up through turn 8 and here Daniel Road, that left-hander at turn 9. Car is a bit squirmy for sure, but still on the black side. I have seen a couple of drivers struggle with the front braking, but there's another little pinch of the rears perhaps there on the way into turn 11, Reece. So, well, Nathan Brown, we know he's got some good pace, and teammate to Blake Warboys as well. Certainly a good driver to be able to work off of and work with here, but struggling a little bit on this initial lap. Still able to hang on to 5th place, but now has a 2nd to make up to Dean Power in 4th if he wants to get back onto putting pressure there.
Yeah, and that run down the S's to Dandenong
Oh,
Road
trouble at
really
1.
hurt him. Oh no, that's a car off. Pinwright liveried. That is Daniel Leet in car 527. Lap down and that is some heavy damage to the front end of that Commodore. It looks to me like it was contact, actually. Leet was defensive versus Bradley Minshall for position coming into turn 1. They came into the corner, and I think Leet just lost control. He lost control over the curb here. Just a little bit of slip in the rear. So no blame, I think, can be assigned to Brad Minshall for that one. By the time slight contact was made with Leet's rear, he was already sliding.
Yeah, that is true. There was contact indeed, but as you do know, it was halfway gone and maybe could have hung on to it. But at that point, you can't really ask the driver who's already on your rear bumper to be able to magically back it off through the corner to account for having a car sliding in. We go back to live pictures because it's on for the race lead. But once again, Blake Warboys looks to be content to sit back here for the time being. He was able to stay with McLean all through the opening, all through this race so far. McLean trying to get those undercuts, which have worked. They've granted him track position to this point, but looks like Warboys here happy to ride in second for now as we actually get the camera down there bottom right of your screen. We'll see here up to turn 6. Actually getting a little bit better through turn 6 there. McLean not quite getting it pulled up, but as we come down to Dandenong Road turn 9, it'll be closer again, but still opting to stay single file and hang on to P2 rather than push for the lead here at this stage as we approach what we think might be the safe window with about 45 minutes remaining. But at this point, so there'll be no takers to the pit lane just yet.
Sandown is a pretty short circuit. It's only 3.1 k's long, and the straights aren't the longest that we see in Australian motorsports, but slipstream is still a factor, and Warboys might be lifting off a little bit towards the end of the straights there just to save a little bit of fuel as we check out this battle for third. Drivers getting very liberal with their usage of the curb on the exit of turn 1. You can use the majority of it as long as you get back on track before the curb ends, but it is quite a big curb. Unsettles you. I noticed that Justin McLean had that very thing happen to him when they came into turn 1, and Warboys almost thought about making a move on him. Our leaders are almost bumper to bumper again coming into turn 6 down to Dandenong Road now, and oh, I see Justin McLean just a little bit of an unsettlement to the rear, and that's going to allow Warboys through to take the lead back. Oh goodness me, that curved braking zone down through the S's down to turn 9, making sure that Justin McLean could not keep the rear in check.
Yeah, it's a tricky little spot, of course, to, I guess, maybe offset some of what looks like simplicity at this circuit with most of the 90-degree turns and, well, a bit of curb usage as most certainly permits it. As we're just going to go to a VRS replay here in a moment. We're just seeing Chris McIntyre and John Bradshaw exchange places, but again, that pass for the lead of the race. We'll see here, brings it down nicely. It just gets away there as the car starts turning to the left, and as a result has to run it out wide over the curb and slow. As we look back at John Bradshaw, we'll see what's happened to him. He also got loose down the S's there, Reese, and he's going to be the one to find the gravel all the way there. So in fact, does not lose a spot to Ryan Robertson, who's in that number 16. Blue Commodore, unfortunately for Ryan, he's a lap down still, but exchange of places between Vancouver and number 20. Those brown coloured accents, I'd say, and Bradshaw in those purple coloured accents in the number 3 machine.
Indeed, teammates, of course, driving similar liveried machines. So Bradshaw, after his mistake, probably figured it's best that I just let my teammate through, don't stifle his progress. Nankerville trying to work his way back to a good position here. He's already one spot up from where he started, and goodness me, he is pushing rather hard, isn't he? As we saw a little flick of oversteer on the way out of the last corner. Meanwhile, the battle for third still on between Michael Stewart and Dean Powell, and before the safety car, Powell was leading this fight, and pitting slightly later under the safety car meant that Michael Stewart got this position, but we can see that Powell is still very quick. He took a 10th out of Michael Stewart on the last lap.
He did indeed. On board there with Stewart for a second. There's a momentary blink there just to interrupt our vision from the rear of the 919. But down into turn 6, also looking at the zoom feed there, we can see Stewart, one of the few drivers, well, actually the only driver here on the Zoom wall today, running a virtual reality headset in addition to sequential shifter and all the goodies there. So maybe the only thing missing would be adding a bit of motion to that rig there. Works through turns 12, 11 and 12 and has about a 2-car length gap there, so able to defend that one without too much fuss, I would say. And I think it's going to quickly become a 3-car fight, and Nathan Brown still has about a second to catch up to Dean Powell there, but working his way into the equation ever so steadily, and the fastest driver of this 3-car group by half a tenth over Michael Stewart. Dean Powell, unfortunately, about 2 tenths back from Stewart and Brown both. On that last one, wide from Stewart. This will make him vulnerable down the back stretch here, Reese.
Yeah, it certainly will. We'll see if Dean Power is brave enough to try and go for a move down into turn 6 here. The slipstream comes into effect, and we see the gap close between the two Mustangs, and it's a little bit of a look there from Dean Powell, but he's not far up enough to try up the inside. You can make a dive up the inside into Dandenong Road if you're brave enough, but again, Powell just not close enough to really get his nose in, and both drivers having trouble making their way through the incredibly tight left-hander, one of the slowest corners on the circuit. Use all of the curb and then some on the way into the last couple of corners, but a slightly wider entry from Michael Stewart means that he gets a much better exit. So Powell is going to have to wait to fight another lap.
Yeah, so looks like a case of rear drivers' strengths and weaknesses here at this point in the race. Reese, Stewart looking a little more comfortable through sector 3 at the end of the lap. Was a little vulnerable though through the opening part of this lap, but sector 2 technically here from turn 4 up to turn 6 is this time through the corner. Again, Powell looks a little more comfortable and got a better car underneath him at this point in the race, which is interesting to note because, of course, he's only got 1 lap fresher tyres than Stewart, but you can see close again as we make our way up towards turn 6, but not quite close enough to do anything with it there. So he will stay in behind this time at least, but he's closing nicely through turn 6 there. The option going to come here to the inside. He'll go for turn 9, but not able to get the job done immediately. Stewart, though, respects the space taken. We're going to have a drag race between these two up to turn 11. No, they will sort themselves back out single file with Stewart able to hang on to P3, but it brings Nathan Brown completely into the equation now. And so if you're Dean Powell, the question is, do you continue to be on the attack or do you start transitioning into a defensive position at this point? Because we'll see what Nathan Brown can now do in terms of applying the pressure.
Yeah, slight look for him down the very wide start-finish straight. And it's a good... No, it's not a good exit from Michael Stewart. Got crossed up over the curb and smashing his front end into the wall. That engine is smoking. Michael Stewart is going to have to pit for repairs, I think, after that point. That's a bit of an obvious conclusion to come to. But, oh, it's amazing just how quickly things can go wrong here at Sandown. I alluded to that curb being a place where the car can get massively unsettled, and it looked like he had it settled through the corner. But we'll see it on the Virtual Racing School replay here. Stewart hard on the brakes into this medium speed left-hander to start the lap. And as soon as he comes off this exit curb, whoop, there it goes. The rear gets unsettled, and that's a head-on collision to the Armco. The front end absolutely destroyed.
It's a great tragedy there, to be sure. And again, it's actually quite surprising to watch that, to be honest, because the car, as you said, barely getting on that exit curb. And in the process, gets all kinds of crisscross. Small moment for Dylan Seitz at the final turn. Immediately, though, goes to the pit lane in the number 21 car. So once again, he was the driver who owed us a pit stop in this race, as the other drivers coming up to the stricken and potentially now fully limping.
Yeah,
Michael Stewart. That car is not rolling. Oh dear, the engine is indeed gone on the 919. He needs to roll it into the pits, but the 17 there, Bradley Minzol, is unfortunately going to get caught up on the 919 there through turns 11 and 12. That will set him back a little bit in what was a fight with Daniel Leet there in the 527. He does carry on and looks to have sustained barely any, if no damage whatsoever, but now has to go and play catch up and deep into turn 1 in the process. Gives us a small thumbs up, and good to see. It seems that's a signal that car is okay for now. Just going to have to make his way back forward to fight for that place he was in earlier.
fast repair taken for Michael Stewart. And the great tragedy of that is, you know, the engine was smoking, it was threatening to pop, and then it finally died on the way down to the last couple of corners. And Stewart was put in a bad position there because he had Brad Minchell and Daniel Leet there fighting for position, just coming up to him. They came up to him, and if you're Michael Stewart, it's like, where do you go? I've got to make the corner, but I'm not able to actually get any power down. Either way, that resulted in Bradley Minchell being spun around. Just an unfortunate coming together there with some extenuating circumstances. Back to the lead, though. Justin McLean has not allowed Blank Warboys to get away. These guys actually quite closely matched on pace. If anything, McLean is the faster car at the moment, but not by much. And the gap is extending there. Looks like there was another problem for McLean down at Dandenong Road.
Yeah, that was a lot of apex curb used there by the 662, and hopped it so much the car did not want to get square on the exit. As a result, does drop about half a second to Warboys, so that will see the gap open up quite handily there. That is now the fight for, well, it was 3 cars fighting over third. Unfortunately, it is now 2. The painfully slow return lap for Michael Stewart has sent him not only to the back of this little 3-car group, but also 1 lap down on the 2 drivers he was just racing, just to add a bit of a pain to the situation for him there. It's going to require a safety car intervention for another series. We do have that manual safety car, of course, but that would require another driver to make a very substantial mistake to need to bring it out again after that compulsory / competition caution that we saw just after going live earlier here on this one. But gap stable now between Warboys and McLean. So indeed, to your point there, Reese, a moment ago, these drivers both fairly evenly matched at this stage. Going to come down now to, it seems, who's going to be most consistent in this final half hour, make it 36 minutes of this race.
The time is rapidly ticking down here. Blake Warboys leads by a second over Justin McLean, and this says something about how closely matched these drivers are. Blake Warboys was only 0.003 of a second faster than Justin McLean on that last lap, so these guys will be racing to the end, I would imagine, very closely indeed. Still up in the air over whether or not they're going to have to make another splash and dash to get to the end on fuel. Of course, Sebastian Murray Westberg is going to be, hey Seb, how you going, mate? Seb's a very good friend of us here at SimSpeed TV, even ran SimSpeed TV and was our broadcast director for a period of time. Good to see him back in the saddle and working in race control for this series. He's definitely got his eyes on these guys, and he'll be thinking about what kinds of strategies the drivers will be employing as well.
Yep, obviously, main job for him being to make sure that arbiter of any incidents that happen on track, which he has had a little bit of work to do today. Just to say, actually, 1 incident has been noted so far, which is back all the way on lap 25 of this race. For reference, the leading drivers just started their 96th lap of this one. So, all in all, it's actually been a fairly quiet one. There was a bit of a controversy way back on lap 1 when I was spectating off air earlier today. We almost had a track blocker here on the exit of turn 4, but riders are able to sort themselves out, use their fast repair for those who caught up in it, and carry on. And apart from that, and the separate incident, as I said, on lap 25, it's been actually been a fairly quiet one for the race control team of Seb Murray-Westberg, and also Jake Burgess as the series admin and fellow steward in that case. Now, how about that there from Justin McLean? He's got that gap down from a second to under 0.4 there, Reese, in the space of no more than 2 laps. So after saying these guys both look to be sort of keeping, holding to their own and sort of balancing out their pace, it looks like Justin has put the foot down. Now, that would suggest to me that Blake is fuel saving in the lead of this race, but this is going to be a good one, I think, because the qualifying times and what we saw at Phillip Island 2 weeks ago kind of suggested to me that maybe this was really going to be a race and a series where Blake Warboys was sort of his races to lose. But good pressure here from McLean as we're coming down to the final half hour of this one, just so long as he keeps that fuel number in mind.
Absolutely. if you want a lap time comparison, Blake Warboys over the last 2 laps ran times in the low 108s, about a 108.1. Meanwhile, Justin McLean ran a 107.7 and a 107.8, so consistently faster than Blake Warboys over the last couple of laps. We will see then what they can do. Coming into yet another of these heavy braking zones. They're at a very rapid lap here at Sandown. You know, it looks like a very simple circuit from the air, and it remains a very simple circuit when you're actually down here on the ground, but there's so many nuances to how you have to tackle these corners.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the great things about this circuit is, the simplicity of the layout, the presumed simplicity of the layout, I should say, is belied by the fact that we do have a lot of technical mastery that is needed to execute over these curbs and these corners to make sure you're maximizing them and not pushing the limits. Here is a little lock. I actually Dylan sights there in the 21, actually going wide at turn 4. As it turns out, it works out reasonably well for both your top 2 there. They'll go on by, and unfortunately for Dylan, put the 21 car another lap down once again, but Dylan is well and truly good on fuel to the end of this race. We still are not quite sure how things are going to go for the leaders. They've done 18 laps on this current stint, and my timing is suggesting another 29 laps in this race, and that would put the race at looking at about 47 laps or 48 laps in total for this stint, and that is longer than Blake Warboy's longest stint. In fact, Justin McLean going to pull the trigger early once again. Going to go for an undercut strategy here to try and finish this one off, it seems. Get himself in here now and clear the requirement early, and then get back out in fresh tyres.
All right, so yet more spice added to the bubbling stew that this race is. Meanwhile, the fight continues here, coming into turn 1 with Dean Powell leading Nathan Brown. Big lock up from Dean, and have a look at who has caught them. It's Michael Stewart. And remember, Stewart is a lap down on these guys, so he's going to have to negotiate this very carefully. These guys were fighting all 3 for position before Stewart had his unfortunate spin out of turn 1. Now he's going to have to back off a little bit so as not to interfere too much with this fight. It does look like Brown is the quicker of these 2 cars. Dean Powell has a quicker fastest lap overall by a 10th, but Brown was quicker by a 10th than Powell on the previous lap. So this will be an interesting battle to look at.
Yeah, keeping our eyes on this one, and Blake Warboys, having gone long just about every other time that this a pit strategy has been called, he will not go long this time and make sure he responds to Justin McLean as soon as he can. He's joined in the pits by his teammate Nathan Brown, so there we go. Both of the Wildogger Carts and Parts boys making sure that they're going to sort this one out here as we go on board with the 662 of McLean, and just waiting to see when will
Warboys is already out.
And how about that? Already out of the pits, and well, we knew McLean's pit strategy was certainly going to be potentially troubling, and the answer is there you go. A lot more fuel that needs to be put in that car. That makes me think there that McLean prioritised staying ahead of Warboys at the safety car pit stop and just took whatever fuel he could. The moment he had to go, he killed the fuel and went. And unfortunately, he now pays the price in this final half hour, at least when it comes to the pit stop and how they've come out of the lane.
Well, so the lead battle is neutralised for the time being. We'll have to wait and see how that works out, as down the back stretch it is very close between Justin McLean and Nathan Brown. McLean, of course, fresh out of the pits, but around the outside to turn 6 is not going to work. And if you're offline in that corner, you suffer all the way down to Dandenong Road. So McLean, and that's way too much curb at Dandenong Road as well. McLean really suffering on his first couple of laps out of the pits here.
Yeah, trying to hustle here to get back or get past Nathan Brown there. It is for position because Brown having a similar strategy to Warboys, not needing to take a whole lot of fuel in addition to what was covered by the tyre change there. And That therefore means that McLean, desperate to try and get on by, able to do so there. So we'll see if that fight carries on, because that will be interesting to watch here. As the race leader is now Dean Powell in the 999 machine, as he has not yet come to the pit lane. He's done 20 laps so far in this one. We'll see if he comes to the pits soon, because, well, the other thing to note here, of course, is weather and conditions. Then, well, actually in saying that, when I checked it a while ways back, it was quite a bit worse in terms of track temperature. It was over 44 degrees Celsius in sort of the opening half hour of the race. Now that we're inside the final half hour, it's come down over the course of the race due to the dynamic time progression here at 27 degrees Celsius currently for track temp. So that will give tyres some amount of life, but then again, these cars aren't exactly known for being good on their tyres compared to, say, other cars you might do endurance style racing in.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that the server has been set up with 2x time acceleration. So for every second that is covered in real time, it's 2 seconds of in-sim time. So we're already approaching 10 to 6 in-sim time. And with 27 minutes to go, that means that we'll finish at around 6:40 in sim time, I believe, or thereabouts. Or 6:30 rather. We'll have to wait and see, though, how the changes in weather conditions affect the drivers towards the end. The track temperature has been pretty stable as I've been looking at it. We'll have to wait and see, as there's another attempt by Justin McLean to get by Nathan Brown. That's a much better line through the S's and into Dandenong Road. They are bumper to bumper, and he tries to stick his nose up the inside on the exit, but it just doesn't work. Too much curb, unsettling the car once more.
Oof, that was an interesting one there from McLean, almost trying to force the issue right on the exit of turn 9. Not able to make it work on Nathan Brown as we jump on board. Looking out the back of the number 86 with all the cuts and parts Mustang, as McLean continues on there, trying to get towards the rear bumper, but not close enough to make a move. It's turn 1.
Oh,
and a safety car has been deployed because Shane Newens is stuck on the Armco up at turn 9.
Oh, he is too. Just saw it.
There's an interesting little prop there as we cut to the pictures to show you that there. So, well, that will now certainly resolve any issues and questions about drivers who... Questions maybe starting to fly around here in the comms box as to whether we had drivers with enough fuel on board. But we'll go to our VRS replay here, Reese, and see what's happened to Newens. So on the way down through turn 6, actually rather nice and tidy and neat. Barely gets a curve at 7, and actually a very unusual one there. Just the way, a very lazy loss of control.
Yeah, it looked like the car got unsettled over the curb to start with, and then he caught that tiny little patch of grass on the inside of turn 8. This is the onboard, and he goes over the curb, locks the rears, and then the grass just exacerbates it, gets stuck in the Armco barrier. And I'm hearing that he's on the way to being given permission to tow, so we'll have to wait and see how long it takes for Shane Newens to be removed from the circuit. Either way, the race has been neutralized once more. Dean Powell making his way into the pits, and Justin McLean just coming out of the box. He has got another set of fresh tyres on that Holden Commodore. He is meaning business here, as Blake Warboys is currently behind the safety car. We'll see how Justin McLean plays this from now. You do fuel and tyres at the same time in these cars, so who knows? You probably might not have taken any extra fuel there, but we'll wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, I would think that at this point he would be good on fuel, as we're going to get a little wave around period here for drivers under the safety car. So Bradley Minsol's been released. Dylan Seitz has been given permission to go around, and then so I believe then Daniel Leet, he'll get one of his laps back here now as well. So just giving these drivers a chance to get another lap back here. And I was going to say the same for the number 16 of Ryan Robson. So that's going to be interesting there. So that will actually bring Robson back to the lead lap of this race here. Whereas unfortunately for Minshall and Leet, they are still 1 lap down. But that now gives us 9 drivers in with a chance of fighting for positions here on the lead lap. So going to get this race a little bit more interesting in the closing stages as we get confirmation that this will be green. Well, set the car in at the end of this lap that they've just started. Lap 105 for this race so far for those on the lead lap of it. And, well, unfortunately there, the 527 there, Daniel Leet, looking a little rough and ready still. Reese hasn't come back to the pits in the 6th lap, so maybe out of fast repairs at this stage. And I'm going to presume, yes, indeed, no fast repairs in hand for Leet, according to our information, thanks to Director Jay Kennedy.
Well, we move on to the next stage here of this race, the final 20 or so minutes. And there's still plenty of racing to be done. Blake Warboys has filtered back through into the race lead after taking a pit stop earlier on. And if there was any danger of him having to fuel save before, that might be neutralized now. A couple of extra minutes under safety car, not using any fuel, would certainly make things a bit easier for him. Safety car has been given the go ahead to drive away. Daniel Leet, who we were just looking at, has made his way back into the pits again, just getting some fresh tyres on and a couple more repairs done. I don't think he'll be able to catch up to these guys by the time they take the green flag, but certainly it's a possibility. Let's see then what Blake Warboys can do. It's a WKNP Sim Sports 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, Daniel Leet isn't going to be catching the field because unfortunately he's just gone around at turn 1.
Oh,
as we're going to see there, unfortunately, really hustling there. Has come unstuck. He'll stay clear of the leaders here as we're waiting for Warboys to put the hammer down off of turn 12. He will wait, and he's still waiting. Oh, that nearly caught a few of them out there as he hasn't gone yet. As we head towards the timing line, goes just before the kink there, which counts as turn 13. We're back underway here in the NTEseries Endurance Championship. Second round of 3 for this one here. And now the question is on for me. Can Justin McLean cut through this field to get back to somewhere near the podium? He's got himself only 3 cars to get by to be in a podium position, but that is still going to be a fair bit of work here to be able to do it quickly and neatly, as well as they work their way up through turns 2, 3, and 4 once again here. And drivers up with the curves. First target for McLean here is going to be the number 3, John Bradshaw.
Indeed. Well, let's see how easy the move is here for Justin McLean, because Bradshaw is sticking it right in the middle of the road. He's looking in his mirrors. He knows that his fellow Commodore is up there behind him, and McLean has to lift off early. There was no chance of getting the move done there. Bradshaw smashing down through the gears on the way down to Dandenong Road, but Justin McLean tries to go up the inside, has to slow down too much at the apex though. Really unsuccessful in getting past him. This is a big problem for Justin McLean, but Bradshaw putting his car in all the right places.
Indeed. It wasn't much, it wasn't like he was defending it at turn 9, but yeah, just made sure to respect the space taken right on the apex and really force McLean at the same time to really drive up and over that apex curb and really have a narrow entry, which really made the exit messy there for McLean in the 662. As a result, indeed, Bradshaw able to drive away with a better exit and maintain the position. So McLean, one attempt, not quite going to plan, but we'll see what he can do later on. But I think we should be looking up the road there, because look at the fight for P2, Reese. Dean Howe all over the gearbox of Nathan Brown here as they're heading to turn 6, as McLean is lining up Bradshaw once again as well. So we're going to have a fight for 2nd and a fight for 5th here potentially as we make our way up to the hill. McLean had to go the long way around, but no, he's going to be covered off this time. But can he get to the inside and get here for turn 9? No, he will not. It's covered off by Bradshaw this time on the way in under brakes.
Yeah, but Bradshaw's line was compromised on the exit. Unfortunately, no space there for McLean to get by. Here is that fight for 2nd you were alluding to, and Nathan Brown is playing the team game very nicely here. He is holding up these guys like a cork in a metaphorical bottle and allowing Warboys to absolutely jet away at the front. Leads by 1.85 seconds, and Dean Powell now will be eyes forward as he has another look up the inside of Nathan Brown. Here's the onboard from the front view. Don't take too much of that curb. That's what unfortunately took out Michael Stewart just a short time ago. Oh, hello. Oh, no. McLean turns around John Bradshaw, and that is big damage there. Bradshaw's going to have to get back going. McLean is staying still here to redress the position. That is an absolute disaster for the man who was leading the race when we went live. That is so unfortunate.
Unfortunately there, I have to say, McLean too aggressive, too ambitious, trying to stick it up the inside on the exit of turn number 3 there, and as a result turns Bradshaw around through that complex there. Bradshaw maybe could have attempted to take the space away from him there and avoid that one, but unfortunately it's come to blows. Just checked in there with the pictures from Dean Powers. Camera can see he's got a couple of family, friends, one of the two perhaps, there watching on with him here as he's trying to get second place off of Nathan Brown, who by contrast looking quite a sterile, almost I'd suggest, there for the 86, but plenty of his pale white walls as he works his way to keeping his position for now, and obviously able to defend that one not too difficult there through 2, 3, 4, but Power super aggressive through turn 4, compromises his exit, and as a result going to have to wait another time to line that one up. He's also got teammate Chris Nankiville now on his rear bumper. You would think Nankiville here will be willing to play the team game for a little while here and try and help Dean focus eyes forward rather than having to watch his mirrors as well here. As Nathan Brown wide at turn 9, that's going to get Power straight back into this here race.
Yes, out of turn 4, it was a case of too much power, as it were, but we'll see how he does here coming out of the last turn. A little bit of a compromise line on the way in, had to slow up a bit too much at the apex. That gives a bit more space to Nathan Brown as they come across the line to start lap 110 of this race with just under 17 minutes to go. How will this work out here? Will it be a WKNP 1-2, the dream result for the team? Nathan Brown will be looking over his shoulder in every single braking zone here and making sure that he can get the power down as nicely as he can. Turn 4 is one of the places where it's most important, and he is nice and clean.
That time round, a lot better as well for Dean Powell. Not close enough, though, I don't think, to make a move here. We'll watch the slipstream kick in now as we climb the hill to turn 6. But Brown able to hold the racing line on the way here into the corner. And as they both get onto the curb nicely and then begin the descent down the hill, he covers the inside. Powell wanted up the inside for turn 9, but he's not able to make it stick there. And as a result, we'll have to try and reset again as we head to turns 11 and 12. As we'll then jump to another virtual racing school replay here. Try and get our eyes on Justin McLean and John Bradshaw once again here, Reese. So you can see Bradshaw defends the spot, and then up here to turns 2 and 3, unfortunately McLean this is something else completely unrelated, as it's actually a change of position there. Apologies.
Yeah, finally manages to get past John Bradshaw and did it cleanly this time. So now McLean down in 8th place, but he has got quite the gap ahead to cars up front, and spare a thought for John Bradshaw as well. He's just trying to complete this race. It was really unfortunate that he was embroiled in that incident with Justin McLean. The fight for second continues. We'll see what Nathan Brown can do to keep Dean Powell and now Chris Nankiville behind him.
Yeah, as you can see, again, too far back that time for Dean Powell to make a move, but looked a little better out of turn 4 initially, plus the slipstream to help him down the back straight to boot. Not quite as nice off the turn 9 there, really has to use more curb and then fires it into turn 11, and as a result that's going to compromise turn 12 a fraction here. So we'll stay close, but advantage Nathan Brown here once again as they work their way down the front straight. 14.5 minutes remaining in this race as Warboys continues to pull the margin out over 5 seconds now since we last checked in on it, all thanks to the fact that he's got clean air and no one around him to worry about, whereas of course Brown really having to think about the defense's big wobble over the curve of turn 3 there. Powell not afraid to let it get sideways through their race, which doesn't help the run as a result, of course, here onto the back stretch.
Yeah, well, as we've said, Sandown is a track where traction is paramount, and unfortunately, I think with those couple of slides, Dean Powell has burned through his rears, so he's having a bit of trouble keeping that car under control through these very crucial zones of the track. It's a good entry to Dandenong Road, though, and he manages to keep it nice and straight on the exit. Is pretty much level with Nathan Brown in terms of pace out of the corner. So we'll see what he can do here. And look, he's changed his strategy now. He's taken that same wide line, slow in, fast out, into turn 12. And we'll see how that works out for him. Slipstream down the front straight. Lap 113 now, and he's on the headlight flash. He's letting Nathan Brown know he's there.
Yeah, that was a good bit of rotation out of the 999 Mustang that time around through turn 11. The way it actually hopped over the curb very nicely, and as a result, it came, when it landed back down, it rotated. He's actually gotten very nice run through turns 2 and 3 and into the rear bumper at 4 in the process. Jumps back on the anchors at corner exit to make sure he doesn't take the place. It brings teammate Nankiville into the equation. Does Nankiville get back in line and maybe try and help push these cars along? In fact, there you go. Black Hawk Motorsport crew here as we come up to turn 6. Powell's closer than he's been before, but he gets on the brakes. Not going to force the issue here into turn 6, but he's looking for turn 9 here, Reese. But again, Brown will cover, and as a result, more contact as they come down into the corner.
Power's getting a bit too aggressive at the moment, and that has cost him a position potentially here. Yeah, he'll get on the brakes a bit earlier and let Nankiville go. We'll see whether this is going to be successful in putting Nathan Brown off the podium. Virtual Racing School replay then of that incident. Just a real shame here. Dean Powell as hard on the brakes as he possibly can here through the S's down to Dandenong Road, but he was a little bit too aggressive here. Just got on the brakes again, and there was a lock-up on the way in too for good measure. And props to Nathan Brown for keeping a hold of that machine as he was tipped over on his way into the corner.
Total commitment from Powell there, and in the saying it was commitment to try and get up the inside, but Brown had that covered off exactly what he needed to do. There was no way through cleanly for the 999, so as a result, into the rear bumper of Brown once again. Now, interesting to note there on that lap, whilst we were looking at the VRS replay, there was an attempt by Dean Powell to get up the inside of Nankiville at turn 1. So, despite the fact these two here from the same team, and I saw it on the rear bumper of Powell and Powell and Nankiville's car, it's Black Hawk Motorsport machines here for these boys. They're not really working together per se. It really seems to be a case of no team orders and every driver for themselves. As a result, though, it means that they gave away a chance to maybe put the pressure on a little bit earlier onto Nathan Brown. In saying that, as you can see, they're now right back up behind him. Gap is about 2 to 4 tenths between these cars as they work their way into turn 1. Question is, can Dean Powell now be willing to play the team game and allow Nankiville to focus on Brown first before he then makes his attempt to get them through as well?
And I think it'd be a good thing for Dean Powell to do to stay as close as he can to Nankiville, but still behind. That said, yeah, have a look at that slipstream. That is quite substantial there for Chris Nankiville around the outside into turn 6. Nope, not going to work. But can he compromise Brown enough to get up the inside at Dandenong Road? No, has to get on the brakes a little bit earlier, slow down a bit more before the corner. Oh, this is a difficult situation for both Powell and Nankiville, because you can see they're clearly both quicker than Nathan Brown at the moment. But they've got to make sure they both get by him cleanly. As goodness me, that was a big wobble there from Chris Nankiville. Proper slide. The car bucked to the left-hand side, and he has to defend from his teammate. But Dean Powell is going to get up the inside now into the first corner. Nankiville will fight it as much as he can. A little bit of space left around the outside. He's going to try and potentially go up the inside again into turn 2. No, he won't. Change of position there between the Black Hawk machines. But Nathan Brown goes a bit wide up ahead of these guys, so the battle is by no means done.
Oh my goodness, the fact that they're normal, these two guys here, of Dean Powell, Chris Nankiville, both scrapping away for every individual spot they can get. And as a result, nearly giving Nathan Brown free rein. But then again, a small error from Brown brings them straight back in. And it's also bringing a fourth car into the mix after the spin and the blown motor. The safety car and a wave around has brought Michael Stewart back into the top 5 here, Reese, and he's now in a position where he can see P2 on the road and actually potentially take the spot as well. But he absolutely monsters to the curb at turn 11, and that will unsettle the run through those 2 corners there. But if he just sits there at that distance, he's no more than about a second and a half behind Nathan Brown. If anything happens between these 3 ahead of him here, he is in the prime position to make his way through. As to the inside looks Powell, but too far back. It'll force the door open. No, Nathan Brown not able to cover it off, and as a result, it's going to be Dean Powell through into P2. 8.5 minutes on the board remaining, and the change finally occurs there for that second place.
That was well executed there by Dean Powell. He showed the nose, he got alongside. Brown had to compromise himself on the way into turn 1 and locked up to boot. But he's got the slipstream down the back stretch. Powell will go defensive into turn 6. Brown moves out of the slipstream and alongside him. Look at the momentum he has. This is going to be a proper fight here. Side by side through turn 6, they bang wheels. Nathan Brown is sent off the circuit. He's going to get a slowdown from iRacing for that one. But Dean Powell locks up into Dandenong Road. That compromises his exit slightly. Look at this fight. This is fantastic.
Here we go. There are no holds barred remaining here, but does Nathan Brown know he's gotten that slowdown penalty cleared? Very good usage of the penalty clearance there on the way out of turn 9 down to turn 11, and as a result, he's back in the fight and able to keep his foot pinned here on the run to turn number 1 once again. As we then work our way down to this corner, we'll see here as, oh, more trouble for Shane Newens. Oh dear. So he's been given permission to get off the track straight away, but another incident for Shane Newens. I suspect, unfortunately, that might have happened solo there as well. But thankfully, it means the track is clear. We stay green and we can keep on racing here as these guys continue to scrap over second place. But look at the gap that Dean Powell has pulled on this lap now with clean air on the way out of that opening second in particular is where he seems strongest.
Yeah, for sure. He is definitely showing that with no one in front of him, he can really put the hammer down. But the fight is going to continue throughout this field. Justin McLean now ahead of Ryan Robson and up into 7th place. Will he be able to catch Dylan Seitz before the end of this one? Looks like Seitz is not too far ahead, so there is potential here for Justin to get at least one more position before the end here, but you've got to think what might have been for him. And I think it was a reasonably similar story at Phillip Island as well. Just some missed opportunities there for Justin McLean. Well, we'll see how they go towards the end of the race here as, oh, a little bit of a look up the inside of Chris Nankerville for Michael Stewart, who's really making himself a factor in this top 5 battle now.
It has now splintered, though, into 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th. Finding on the track is a fantastic bit of run off the corner. Nankerville, though, I think actually, that doesn't seem, yeah, in fact, he actually on the brakes early there to let the pass be complete by turn 6. That didn't quite add up, to be honest. Like, there's a good run off turn 4, but then there's maybe, in the case of Nankerville, having a bad run off the corner in conjunction, because that almost seemed unbelievably good from Michael Stewart there in terms of getting the job done halfway up the straight pretty much. No pressure or contest from Nankerville. He did try and force the issue back at turn 11 there, but proceeded simply to go in too hot, lock the front tyre, and lose a bit of time as we check eyes back in on Nathan Brown. Still trying to keep Dean Powell honest for second place, yes. And you can see there through turn 1, Powell really pushing still. Goes a bit up and over that exit curb, and that can cause potential problems, but there is a bit of leeway out there with the curb. And it's the way it crowns as well, which is a interesting sort of design here. You don't see it too often, I'd say, Reese, with the way having a curb. It's mostly flat in terms of its angle and such, but the way it just then crowns from as you get to a certain point and drops away as a result. Very easy to get a car beached if you just get it in the wrong way at this circuit. And it's several places. You can see it there at that turn 7 kink. You see it at turn 1. You see it at turn 4. You see it there on the exit of turn 9 as well.
That you do. And talking about exit of turn 4 for these two. Yeah, you mentioned you were a bit curious about that pass that was made by Michael Stewart. It looked like Nankerville was actually a bit unsettled going into turn 4 and delayed his acceleration past the apex of turn 4, so that might have played a part in allowing Michael Stewart to get alongside him. Meanwhile, Justin McLean trying to have a look at 6th place here with Dylan Seitz in the number 21 Mustang just up ahead of him, and we'll see what kind of difference in line there is between these two. Drag the brakes a little bit out of turn 1 did Dylan Seitz, so this tells me that Justin McLean might be trying to put a move on him sooner rather than later. A lot of curb at turn 4 there, more than would ideally be taken for Dylan Seitz, and McLean is now in the slipstream as we look back from the big dinner tray rear wing of the Mustang. But I think McLean knows better than most just how difficult it is to put a move up the inside of turn 6 and around the outside as well for that matter. He's had to be in that position a few times now. How will Dandenong Road go for these two? They're bumper to bumper at the apex, and Seitz will definitely be feeling the pressure now.
He's got to hang on for at least another 3 laps, but with the way McLean is closing in, I think, unfortunately for Dylan Seitz, that would be an incredibly tough ask of him here. And we come to the line at the inside 3 minutes to go, but because the leader is over 20 seconds up the road, we will get that 3rd lap in here before this race is over. So it will be a 124 lap affair today at Sandown for this NTE Series Endurance Rounders. Oh no, Chris Nankerville's gone around at turn 4 all by himself.
Oh,
that's
no.
going to end the fight for 4th. And as a result, sends Dylan Seitz and Justin McLean through into 5th and 6th. We're going to get a quick VRS replay over here. And unfortunately, that turn 3 exit curb entry to turn 4, doing the nasty bit of work all by itself as Nathan Brown in the live pictures has just had a moment at turn 9. And he's was able to pressure Team Power for the 2nd again, but not quite, as we see the outside angle there of Nankerville at turn 4.
Yeah, Nankerville did a good job of getting straight back on the power to get off the racing line there as well and allow McLean and Seitz to get through. I say them in that order because McLean is now ahead of Seitz, ended up making the move, coming down the back straight, and it looked like it was yielded there by Dylan Seitz. So Justin McLean up into the top 5 as we enter the last 2 laps of this race. Blake Warboys leads by 15 seconds over Dean Powell, and Nathan Brown will bookend the podium at the moment for WK&P Sim Sports. It's been another good round for that team, as that's a big lock up there for, I believe, that is
Daniel Leet.
Daniel Leet once more, who has had a bit of a torrid end to this race, still carrying some heavy damage to the front end, and a big lock up into Dandenong Road, putting him another lap down on Blake Warboys, who comes across the line to take the white flag. It is the final lap of round 2 of the NTE Series Endurance Championship.
See, the clock barely struck 1 minute and 6 remaining, so almost could have gone an extra lap there if the timing was just a little bit different there, but alas, Barney will bring this one to a close here after 124 laps. As first sector of the circuit negotiated without drama for Warboys, nice and tidy through turn 4 as well. He's not exactly looking to set the fastest lap of the race, of course, here to wrap things up today, but will certainly make a good job of it here as he works his way up the back stretch into turn number 6 for the final time here today.
And we look over his shoulder on the Zoom feed as he makes his way down to Dandenong Road for the final time. Super success at Phillip Island, and it's going to be super success again here at Sandown. Just 2 more corners to go. Take it nice and easy over the curbs. Don't worry too much. You've got a 15-second gap to the cars behind. It's going to be 2 from 2 so far for Blake Warboys in the NTE Series Endurance Championship. Slides across the line in celebration. Another brilliant performance from the driver of the number 63. Dean Powell is going to come across the line in 2nd here after starting 5th. Excellent job there, Dean. Definitely wasn't without its issues, but you got it done in the end. And Nathan Brown will come across the line in 3rd.
Fist pump from Nathan as well. Reasonably happy with that one there, and we'll see it again. Able to feel fairly happy with that one there. Michael Stewart brings it home behind them in 4th place. And then McLean, Sites, Nankiville, and Bradshaw are going to be the drivers who about to wrap things up. As Bradley Minsole is going to be the last driver across the line here, as unfortunately one of our drivers a lap down in this race at the checkered flag. And that is everyone who's finished this race today now across the line for this second round of the NTE Series Endurance Championship. So we can walk you through the race results there. And despite the fact it's a 16.5-second margin, Reese, that really wasn't the case of Black Wall Boys. Was having to play the strategy games there with Justin McLean, but unfortunately, a small mistake from Justin, as well as the offset strategy there, not quite working out in his favour this evening. Dean Powell, as I said, it was a tough one, but got to second there in the end and was deservedly there. Had a Nathan Brown in third. Michael Stewart recovers nicely to end up in fourth position despite blowing the engine with 40 minutes odd to go there. McLean, as we said there, unfortunately gambled on undercuts, and as a result, it did not pay off to the compulsory safety car later on in the race there. We'll have to settle for fifth. Dylan Sites was there trying to keep pressure with McLean, but unfortunately a small mistake for him sees him end up sixth in a bit of a quiet spot on the road. Chris Nankiville recovers after that late accident. Unfortunately, he drops out of what would have been P5 to P7. John Bradshaw, also another driver who was probably a little hard done by there towards the end of the race. He'll end up there in 8th, Reese. And Ryan Robson, our last driver on the lead lap there in 9th. And your final two finishes of the race were Bradley Minsole and Daniel Leet there in 10th and 11th. Unfortunately for Shane Newlands, instructed to retire after his final incident we just caught on camera. Tim Nicol also retiring partway through the race. And unfortunately for Tyron Anderson, despite taking part in practice, did not make the race start earlier this afternoon.
Indeed. Well, Blake Warboys, this isn't live pictures, I don't believe, but we'll nonetheless bring Blake Warboys from the future from this footage's perspective and the present from our perspective. It's another great victory for you, Blake, in the NTEseries Endurance Series, but you definitely had to work for it here at Sandown, particularly in that strategy battle with Justin McLean.
100%. That was a awesome strategy battle and battle on the track. Justin had great pace all race, so great work to him. Had a ball. That was good fun.
Yeah, we certainly had good fun up here in the commentary box as well. Sandown on this fixed setup. What are your thoughts on how the car drove today? Because we definitely saw a few drivers having issues with slowing the thing down, and traction was an absolute priority here today.
100%. I found the setup quite nice to drive. Definitely tricky to get your braking markers and then your throttle input to get a nice clean runoff was definitely tricky, but once you sort of got your head around what you needed to do, it was quite a nice setup to drive and handled the curbs really well.
Yeah, definitely seemed that way from your perspective, and it's another great result for the team as well, with Nathan Brown getting third place. So WK&P on the up and up here today.
Yeah, that's awesome job by Nathan today. It's definitely been coming. He's been putting in a bit of work in behind the scenes with his driving, whether it's the sim or the go-kart. So it's great for him to finally get a podium for all his hard work. Definitely, he had the pace to probably run with Dean at the end there, but just a couple of little mistakes. But he's very happy with third place.
As he should be. And of course, final round of the championship next time will be Bathurst, and that's a track that all of our drivers are very familiar with. That'll be on the 10th of December. You're looking forward to it as much as we are?
100%. Bathurst is always a good track to go racing at. Hopefully everyone who's signed up for the series jumps in and has a run, get the full field in, which would be good to see for the final round. But I'm sure the battling and the strategy will be just as good as it was today.
Indeed. Well, before we let you go, Blake, anyone that you'd like to thank for your victory today?
The team, WK&P Sim Sports, for their hard work. Wodonga Karts and Parts, LGK Karts Australia, EKS Karts Australia, Super Chip Auto, the series organisers and series sponsors for putting on the series again, and the broadcast team for another great broadcast.
Well, that's Blake Warboys there, making it 2 from 2 here in the NTE series presented by Shannon's. And that is going to draw things to a close, Dan, because this is where we're going next time. Remember, December the 10th, Bathurst. And, well, what more can you say about this track that we haven't already said a million times before?
Indeed, it is the spiritual home of Australian motorsport, whether it be real or virtual. Wasn't the first track to be introduced from the region to iRacing. That one goes to Phil Barlin way back when, well before my time at least, but at least that are the words of George J. Kennedy once upon a time, so that I can trust at least. But yeah, will be a good one there. 2.5 hours means we should probably see, it's somewhere in the order of almost 450 kilometers of racing. So, almost half of Bathurst 1000, give or take there, to get sink our eyes and teeth into in 2 weeks' time to bring this 3-round endurance series to a close. Thanks to the guys at NTEseries. And well, whilst that does it for this broadcast this evening, Reese, we've still got ourselves a bit of commentary work to do tonight. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with the Logitech G Scope Support Series as they conclude their season at Road America tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you stay tuned to SimSpeed TV. We'll be live sometime within the next hour to bring you the action there for 3 of the support categories for V8 Scops, the Flat 6s, the 2-litre Tourers, and the V8s. It is a full-on night of racing here at SimSpeed TV, and we hope you stay with us for it. I'm Reese Gardner. That was Dan Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy, of course, on production as always. Goodbye for now, but certainly not forever. We'll see you very soon.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God!
God, what?